The State Capture Inquiry report has highlighted widespread looting and mismanagement at Eskom. It alleges that the controversial Gupta brothers pocketed 14.7 billion rand in irregular contracts from the troubled state-owned entity. For more on this story and its impact on the power utility, we're joined by energy expert Professor Sampson Mamphweli. Good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time. Of course, Eskom is really highlighted as one of the key SOEs that seem to be the central points of state capture. In fact, today when we talk about, workers that are demanding more salaries and the power utility saying that it simply does not have the money, one can also read it as one of the fallouts and the long-term impacts of that state capture.
Good evening, Kathy and the viewers. Yes, indeed. When the report came out and when I went through the report, I was not surprised at what I was reading because I had read some of these things in the previous report. Some of them, the matters were already in the public domain through various media houses reporting about them. Now, if you look at the technical side of things, before we even go to the financial and the human resource aspect, you will see that the energy availability factor for Eskom coal power stations started declining from 2010 up to around 2016. And between 2012 and 2015, there was a bit of a sharp decline in the energy availability factor, which basically means that the problems that we're experiencing today started way back then. And that coincides with some of the things that we're reading in the report, because the years 2012 to 2015 were the years that the Guptas were very busy. Those are the years where there was quite a lot of changing of personnel, and we lost some key personnel at Eskom in the form of engineers. They had to leave the country. Some of them had to go to work for IPPs. So the data that we have on the technical side supports what the Zondo Commission has uncovered in terms of what happened at Eskom. You will also remember that we had a massive spend on the construction of Medupi and Kusile, with a lot of cost escalations, up to 3 times the original cost. And all that was happening during that time that the Guptas were very busy together with their associates at Eskom. So the results of all that is what we're seeing today. So we're suffering the impact of that. And there are people who always say, and they say through media and all sorts of media, that between 2013, 2014, 2015, they stopped load shedding because they were working very hard. That's a blue lie, because that time, the only reason why we couldn't have load shedding was because the economy contracted and we used less. The demand for electricity went down. Otherwise, that was the time that the system was starting to show that it's getting constrained.
Of course, one of the things that the report makes so explicit is the fact that the Guptas and their associates had free reign at Eskom, and all of that happened under the watch of the president and almost by his permission.
Yes, it does say that. And if you go through the report, this one and the previous volume that talked about Eskom, you could see that this was something that was properly orchestrated with the appointment of particular people, and those people going there with a mandate. If I have to give an example of the around 2015, when Mr. Machela Koko refused to sign 27 IPP projects that were meant to give us new generation capacity. The delay in the implementation of the integrated resource plan, that would have led to us having a lot of generation capacity and not sitting in the position where we are today. And some people pushing the nuclear deal because that's where they saw that there was some money to be made for them and their close associates. So if you put all that together and then you look at the report that Justice Zondo has issued, you could tell that these problems that Eskom has today, they date back to the years of state capture, and because of that, during that period, we had a lot of policy uncertainty, which also led to so many other things. I mean, if you look at the original equipment manufacturers, they were no longer in the space in terms of maintaining some of our systems. So we've got the aging infrastructure that was not properly maintained. Basically, that was neglected during those years. That's why today we've got breakdowns that could go up to 20,000 megawatts without us knowing exactly where the problem is.
Matela Koko, amongst those that the report has said need to have charges preferred against them, the others on the list include the likes of Brian Molefe. It also includes some of the board members. And, you know, the thing that really comes up here is why it is that we have not seen any specific action against some of the high-profile individuals that were said to be involved as part of the state capture project at Eskom. Of course, we've had some players here and there. Some have been managers, but certainly none of the people that catch the prominence of the public eye.
Yes, that's problematic for me. And some of us have been saying it doesn't help the country. It does not help those people who are implicated as well. Because they move around with this cloud hanging over their head. I think the NPA needs to move with speed. They need to start charging those particular people, bring them to court so that they can either clear their names or they can be where they should be in terms of wearing the orange overalls. So I think the NPA is delaying, or either it's constrained in terms of resources. But the sooner they start charging those particular individuals that are mentioned in the report, the better for South Africa and the better for those particular individuals as well.
14.7 billion rand, that's the amount that has been put in the commission's report that is really attributed to the amount linked to irregular contracts at Eskom. It's a lot of money. Even if we were to get half of it back, it will really help alleviate some of the challenges we're facing. Where are we in as far as trying to get that money back? I know Eskom is always talking about the difficulties that they're facing financially and the fact that they too would like to get their hands on some of that money at the very least.
Yes, Eskom is trying their best internally. They've got a team that's looking specifically at how some of this money could be recouped. They're working with a number of law enforcement agencies to try and recoup some of this money. And you're right, this is quite a lot of money that could have resulted in us avoiding some of the challenges that we have. If you take all that money and put all of it into maintenance, and we do proper maintenance of these coal plants, we could be in a very different position. So yes, that particular money needs to come back, and I happen to believe that the 14.9 billion it's a drop in the ocean. Once investigations are started, we will see quite a lot more, because there's quite a lot that the commission couldn't really go into the details. There are currently investigations that Eskom is undertaking by themselves through the leadership of the current CEO. And through those kind of investigations, they are even uncovering some of the things that are still going on, because some of the people who are still at Eskom are still involved in some of these kind of issues.
Of course, often when people talk about state capture, including even when we listened to the comments made by the President and the Chief Justice at the release and the launch of that report, it's almost as if, you know, it's done. It's spoken about in past tense. But an entity like Eskom still very much grapples with some of the contracts that were entered into, particularly the evergreen contracts, and how to bring some of those to an end to try and save money. And often they're challenged when they try and end some of those contracts.
That's true. And going through the report, I could see, you know, some of the contracts, how some of the Eskom policies were not followed. We must remember that Eskom kind of follows the PFMA in terms of their own policies. It's not so different from the PFMA, and the report has actually uncovered that some of the policies, or most of the policies, were not followed, especially when it comes to companies where the Guptas were involved, and some of their associates as well. So there's quite a lot of work that Eskom is currently doing. And when they approach courts, there's quite a lot of what we could term fight back in terms of those particular contracts and the individuals involved.
All right, let's leave it there for tonight. Energy expert, Professor Sampson Mamphweli.